Okay guys, what's going on? It is the day before Halloween, October 30th, which means we're going to get a bit spooky. I know that is not really a big thing in Australia as Halloween, but on other parts in the world, including America, it's a huge deal. And I love that because it inspires people to go out and dress as horror characters or watch horror movies, whatever it may be. It all comes down to horror and getting scared, and I love that. So I thought I'd do a video that I've never done before, and that is be a ranking of the best horror characters of all time. Now, the word best is the word I'm using, but it's really my favorite. When it comes down to it, there are so much different factors that go into this list. It is personally my list. No list is going to be the same, but it is a favorites list. It includes how iconic the character is, the legacy they've left behind, their movies, the scariness, and just the character themselves. There's so much factors that go into this list, so please not go off the chain if you see something you don't like, or maybe something that you love that I didn't include. Whatever it may be, it's very personal and it is a favorites list, but it's just easier to use the word best. Now I'm going to be ranking 10 characters from different various horror franchises, and they have to be horror movies. Now that's the biggest thing. There's a few honorable mentions that I'll get into. Before I even get into the honorable mentions, I want to do the honorable mentions because these are characters that are very good, but to me don't really fit in a horror movie. I think we're talking Jaws, obviously the shark from Jaws, we're talking Alien, the xenomorph Predator from Predator, and 7, we've got John Doe, played by Kevin Spacey. Now, great movies, great characters, but to me they're not horror movies. They fit more into thrillers or sci-fis or action, so I'm not including them in my list. But I will kick it off with some quick run-of-the-mill, not run-of-the-mill, but just going to slint you out with some honorable mentions. We're going to be talking about Chucky, very close but didn't make the cut. Nun, I think the last movie ruined it for her, but she was very, very close. We have got Leatherface. I've never been a huge Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan, but he's a badass nonetheless. The whole literal skin on the face shit, other people's skin, it's pretty awesome. Regan, from The Exorcist also merely made the cut, as well as Jack from The Shining was almost in as well. But that's 5. Just quick non-honorable mentions that I wanted to put out there in case someone was mad. These didn't make the cut because they're very iconic characters as well. But I'll get in and let's kick off the list. Coming in at number 10, we have Frankenstein's monster. Now this character is very iconic. Although I'm not the biggest old school horror fan, I really like them, but there is some stuff that I'm never, raving and rummaging through them to go and watch them all the time like other people are. I'm, only 21 years of age. I'm not going to go and, act like I was there in 1930s and 40s when these movies were being made, so they're just not made for me. But Frankenstein's monster is iconic as hell. He has a great look that has been spread around horror for years, whether it's spoofs or cartoons or just people dressing up like him. Frankenstein's monster has always been in horror culture, and for that reason he had to make my list. On to number 9, we have Annabelle. Now this may be a bit more controversial because this is a newer, fresher character, and her first solo film wasn't that great. But Annabelle creation, I think, was fantastic. I can do, without 3, but her incarnation within the Conjuring universe is very vital. I think the character herself, although you never really see it move, it always invites spirits to whatever's going on. I think it's a very creepy doll, which is a huge factor. That shit scares the shit out of me. That look, I would never go in a house if that shit's just sitting in the corner. No chance, even if they said there's nothing wrong with it. It just, that look, I think, alone had to be put in here because it just has such a frightening look, as well as I am a big Conjuring fan, and personally for me, Annabelle had to make the list. On to number 8, we have Michael Myers. No, we're not talking Mike Myers, Shrek, or Austin Powers here. We're talking about Michael Myers, the shape himself from Halloween. Now, I've never been a huge Halloween franchise guy, which is probably why people may expect him to be a bit lower down on most people's list. He's not going to reach the top 5 for me, just because I'm not that keen on the movies. Saying that, he's great. They have, a lot of sequels that didn't go great, but the original is phenomenal, and the newest one was great as well. Now, the character himself, I think, is iconic. A lot of these characters, just when you think of horror, these are the people that come up, and that's a big part of my list is, a horror icon or how the legacy that's left. And he left a huge legacy. The mask is very iconic now. The look and his intensity and his just unstoppability, don't know if that's a word, but that's what he is, and he had to make my list because he is a badass. On to number 7, we have Hannibal Lecter. Yes, Hannibal, the cannibal himself, from originally from Silence of the Lambs, should I say. Obviously got other movies from there, Red Dragon, his own Hannibal movie, stuff like that. But again, this isn't a franchise that I'm dying about. I love the first Silence of the Lambs, but haven't really seen much else of him. But the character is so good in that movie. He is really, really good. He is maybe the best written villain of maybe this entire list. He is very smart, which makes him even more menacing, and the cannibal aspect is very, very scary, and a great portrayal as well by Anthony Hopkins. He was definitely up there. If we're talking best, not necessarily favourite, he'd probably push him top 3 because he is very well done, he is very well delivered, and he is definitely one of the best villains of all time. Now on to number 6, we have Norman Bates. In what, in my opinion, is the second best horror movie of all time, we have Psycho, and starring in that is Norman Bates. Now, that movie's phenomenal. I'll talk for that movie, days. I can go into that movie because it's really damn good. But his work in that movie is phenomenal. Obviously, the big switch of him being the mother. It works either way. But him being the mother and that change is so damn good. His insanity is so creepy. He does such a really good job. Now, you're probably thinking, if he's such a great villain and it's your second favorite movie of all time, horror-wise, why is he not lower? To me, he's not crazy scary. He's more creepy, he's more insanity, but he's not like scary, which is kind of why I put him a bit lower, because he wouldn't frighten me. I feel like I can take out Norman Bates. But not to take away his role, because he was never meant to be this unstoppable force, but that's why he's kind of lower down on my horror movie characters, just because, you want it to be a bit more scary than the crazy man in his mother's clothes. Into the top 5 we go, and we're going to start off with Ghostface. Now, what is my favourite horror movie of all time? Scream, again, stars Ghostface. The biggest thing with Ghostface is through the series of Scream, it always stars Ghostface, but it's a different person under the mask, which kind of impacts my, rating of it's one dude. He's always got the funny quips on him. He's become very iconic, that mask. I own the mask. It's a very good mask. He just kills it. But again, because it's just a random person every time, it kind of takes away from the factor of how really good he is. If it's just some random dude that's just donning the mask itself, again, the movies are phenomenal. I may have a Scream video coming up very, very soon, but when it comes to, this whole, changing of the mask and who it is during the series, it kind of impacts how lower down he is compared to everyone else that is the same person, it's the same character, and they absolutely crush it. This movie is nothing to be taken away because, again, favourite horror movie of all time, but 5 is Ghostface. On to number 4, Dracula. Maybe one of the most iconic on the list. Purely because of vampires themselves, I had to put him very much high on this list. If we're talking the movie Dracula or even Bram Stoker's Dracula, it's not making my top 10 horror movies, but the Dracula character has just become so infamous with vampires. It started a big, chain of so many shows and so many movies because of vampires. And I know we can get into Nosferatu and all that stuff, but he's the most famous vampire in the world. And if we're talking vampires, they have to be high on your list. And we're talking the most famous vampire, we're talking Dracula. Now, he is iconic. I don't think many people would not know the name Dracula. I think probably 99% of the world knows the name Dracula, which is such a huge thing. People dress up like a regular vampire and just say that, that Dracula, because he is the most famous vampire in the world. We're talking vampires, talking Dracula, number 4. On to the top 3, we have Pennywise. Now, Pennywise is another one where he could definitely be up there for the best villain on this list. Both portrayals, Tim Curry and Bill Skarsgård's portrayal, have been killer. I have a problem with the first incarnation of the It movie. Wasn't very good, but Tim Curry was great. The newer movie, I think, 1's a lot better than 2, but either time, Bill Skarsgård has been awesome. Pennywise's ability to be that supernatural pest just get in people's heads, get into their fears, just makes him even better. I know we're talking Pennywise and it could actually be, you know, someone else, but that villain is so iconic now, especially with the last run of these films. I think he's really gotten into it. And again, he could make the case with Hannibal Lecter of being the best villain of all time. I think he is very, very good. He is quippy, he is funny, he is frightening, he is what you want him to be, and he's coming in at 3. Number 2, we have Freddy Krueger. Yes, Nightmare on Elm Street, we're talking Freddy Krueger. Number 2, I think, purely based on name. Honestly, he isn't my top favorite one, or, you know, like, he is, but not the best. His movies haven't been crazy good. He had Nightmare with the first one, which was really damn good. But the whole concept of him, I think, is the scariest bit. He really ensues fear of, like, I cannot go to sleep because this guy's going to come after me. The look, you know, the claws, the hat, the stripy fucking sweater, Robert Englund's portrayal, his quips, his, you know, just his, you know, his usage of just absolute smack talk. He's crazy iconic, and he's one of those names where I'd probably say more people would know the name Freddy Krueger before they knew Pennywise. So that's kind of where I went with that, and it's my favourite. So even though the movies aren't as good as maybe the It's or, you know, the Silence of the Lambs, he's up there because of how good he is. On to number 1, and we have Jason Voorhees. Honestly, this was an absolute no-brainer for me. I have an absolute love for the Friday the 13th franchise, even though 90% of the films are trash. Look, the remake in 2009 was trash. I could go on a video about that, ranting for that as long as I live, and the first movie was the best, and Jason wasn't even in it. But the one mainstay of what I love about the Friday the 13th movies is Jason Voorhees. He is iconic. He has spurred franchises. He has spurred, you know, parodies. He's been ensued in culture, and he's very, very iconic. The horror mask now goes with him. People can just see Hoggy plays and think it's fucking Jason. Like, this mask is iconic as hell. His unstoppable force, his brutality is awesome. I love his backstory of the kid drowning in the lake. He's just awesome, and I know we can get into people being like, oh, well, you know, the movie sucked, which is fair. Or we can go, oh, well, he doesn't talk, which is fair. But I just have an unbridled love for Jason, so there was no way he wasn't going to be number 1 on my list. Thank you so much for watching, and what did you guys think about my top 10? Anything you would change? Anyone you would add in that was one of your favorites that wasn't on my list, not even on my honorable mentions, or someone you completely disagree with and you want them chucked to the list? Whatever it is, let me know below. Make sure to give it a thumbs up. It does go a very long way. Subscribe if you've never seen me before. If there's any other rankings you would love me to do, I'm trying to spread it out because obviously my reviews are dropping on my Instagram channel now, on my Instagram page. So they say that is at Ace Davies, the same name as this channel. Go out and check out my Instagram because I do drop all my reviews there as well. Instead of doing them as a video, I will still be maybe doing some throwback reviews or whatever they may be, but all the new release stuff is now there. I hope you guys have a happy Halloween. It will be tomorrow, probably 2 days, you know, until they're for America. All that good shit I just said before. Like, subscribe, comment, but of course, guys, have a spooky one.